we found in Jerusalem a fellow, Yehohanim, who was in his late 20s, who was also crucified. And he had his feet. But the feet there were like that. And they were nailed underneath there, through there, onto the cross somehow. So, sorry, I'm not doing that well. Do you want me to stand on the table? Yeah. So the feet were around, you know, like that. That's how they were. So we don't really know. We do know that, generally speaking, for crucifixion, the hands were either tied or nailed there. Sometimes the feet were, sometimes they weren't. We don't know. Most of our artistry is of 3 nails, one here, and one through, 1 foot on top of the other. That's our artistry. But it doesn't seem, we don't know. We don't know. Did you know that 800 Pharisees were crucified in the 1st century BC by Alexander Jannaeus? So the Pharisees, they were very good people, wonderful people, but they suffered a lot too. Then in 4 BC, 2,000 Jewish people were crucified as well. So, but then in the first part of the 1st century AD, until the 44 AD, the only person we know that was crucified was Jesus. The only person that we know. And then there were more crucifixions, including this Jehohanim, between 44 and 66. There were quite a few in that period, as the Jewish people got a bit more rebellious.
Can you explain the definition of crucifixion? Because my understanding was that Jesus was crucified, but then there were 2 thieves?
Yes, they were. Yes, that seems to be so.
Okay, were they crucified as well?
Yes,
so
they were.
3 people.
Oh, 3
okay.
people. Sorry, yes. That's the only time we know in that period, from about the year 1 AD to about the year 44 AD. Yep, sorry. Yes, it was 3. Yes. Okay. So, Jesus was crucified outside the city. Outside the city. There are 2 possible locations of where he was crucified. One is 90-something% sure, the other one is not. The 90-something% sure is where the Holy Sepulchre is. Somebody in the 19th century found a beautiful garden with a tomb in it, and that's where very, very few people would think it was. That'd be nicer to go there, because going to the Holy Sepulchre is not a nice experience, because there's a lot of Christian squabbling. The Armenians, the Copts, the Latins, the Greeks. It's a funny experience. But that's because we all want to have a little bit of the Holy Sepulchre, where Jesus died. So, it was a quarry. It was a quarry. And people were being buried there. So that seems to be true. And by this time, Jewish people loved martyrs, so they kept the tombs of martyrs, any martyrs. And James, the brother of, close from the Lord's family, and the Lord's family were very strong in Palestinian Christianity till well into the 2nd century, so it would be very unusual if they didn't know where the tomb was. So it would seem that, because this tomb was an extraordinary tomb, because it was from the tomb that Jesus vanished, rose, was empty. So it became very quickly, in the Lord's family, a place of veneration. And therefore, when wonderful Bishop Melito of Sardis visited Jerusalem around the year 180 AD, they were shown where the tomb was. By that stage, the whole of Jerusalem had been destroyed, and they had built a temple over this. And it was only under Constantine that they destroyed the temple, the pagan temple, and they built right over where Jesus was. They built 3 things. They built a basilica, they built a beautiful little thing over the where our Lord tomb was, and they built another little thing where the cross was. So we're pretty lucky, you know where the tomb was. We're pretty lucky to know so much about our Lord's dying and death and burial. Now, could I just finish now with a word about the resurrection? It's a mystery. That's it? No, I'll say a little bit more about that. So, I want to say, first off, you know, when we come to the resurrection, we've got to know that we've just witnessed the death of an extraordinary, beloved and righteous human being, and he remained good to the end. And many people felt blessed for having seen his dying. That's what St. Luke is saying too. I should have said this. As people are watching Jesus die, they're being saved or healed or changed, aren't they? So it's a beautiful thing that happened. Even the people go home beating their breasts, don't they? They're repentant. They're beating their breasts. So the centurion, the crowds beating their breasts, and the friends and the women from Galilee. They're the three groups that are sympathetic to Jesus as he's died. But back to the resurrection. So in St. Luke, we're left with a feeling of profound sadness at the death of a just and a beautiful human being. We know too that in all the Gospel accounts, when Jesus was arrested, tried in a dreadful trial, and executed like that, that was the disillusionment for them, profoundly so. I don't know that we could really imagine what it was like. But their whole world, their whole reason for living and for enjoying life was gone. They had no future anymore. So one of the biggest things that we've got to face is, how did they move from that into being empowered to go out and to preach that Christ is risen? That's a massive change. Some people have argued, group hallucination or whatever. But most people have found that one of the most striking, not proofs, we don't want to use that, but one of the most striking events in the birth of Christianity, because it's so unusual that a person the leader in whom everybody had their hopes dies, then normally that's the collapse of the movement. But it didn't happen. So something profound happened. And we say, and we could say this: the empty tomb is significant, massively so, in the resurrection accounts, all of them, massively significant. And you don't say, thank goodness he's risen. You don't say that. That's what he said. Isn't that fantastic? No. What happens is, everybody goes, when they find the tomb, they get shocked because they're expecting to find the body and it's not there. They don't think, who's taken him away? They just get shocked. Mary Magdalene does. She says, where have they put him? But everybody gets, when they come to the tomb, the women get disorientated. And so there's an angel appears to explain the significance of it. Now we don't know, that's an elaboration a little bit of what's happening, But the most profound truth is